This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social, delighted to be joined by legendary boxing trainer Kenny Adams. We're here in Glasgow ahead of Ryan Burnett versus Nonito Donaire. First of all, Kenny, nice to meet you. How are you?
Nice to meet you. Happy to be with you guys.
So we're here in Glasgow. You're training Nonito Donaire against Ryan Burnett. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that and how you became to work with Nonito Donaire?
It's a great opportunity to be working with him. Like I said, I was originally supposed to work with him some years ago. During that time frame, I've gotten sick with a little cancer here and there. And so now I'm back well again. And I had been kind of helping him prepare anyway and for his preparation for this fight, because the other gentleman that was originally working with him was Brandon Woods, who was kind of my understudies, and we had been working well with it. So I've been in the gym with him anyway. So when he got really sick, I kind of fell in, and it works out well. No problem. We're gonna take care of this. We're gonna take care of this business now. We here, so we're gonna go on that winning way again. You know what I mean?
Now, you were at the press conference yesterday and you were looking very sharp in your suit. Terrible for me because I'm never looking sharp, so you made me look even sloppier. You were very confident yesterday. You've been very confident so far this week. Why are you so confident that Nonito Donaire will beat Ryan Burnett this weekend?
The reason why I'm so confident is because we are prepared for this guy at all. We went through from A to Z, and we've taken care of all the business that needs to be done. All the preparation has been done. We're just maintaining, get his weight on time, and that's not a problem either. So we're good to go. I'm very, very confident. He's looking excellent. I mean, he's on top of it. He's at his A game, and this is all that it takes, And I'm taking nothing away from, what's the guy's name again?
Burnett.
I know his name, but I just don't want to call it. But anyway, it's like this. It's kind of one of those things where I give him all the respect in the world, and I think he's a great fighter, but we're a better fighter. We're a much greater of a fighter than he is. And Donaire, as being smart as he is going to make the big difference in this fight. It's not who can do what, it's how smart you can be. And Donaire is going to be able to make all the adjustments that need to be made.
Now, you've mentioned it already, the weight. So Donaire's moving down from featherweight to bantamweight. Obviously, he's boxed as a bantamweight. He's boxed as lighter than that before in his career. A lot of people are concerned, are talking about the weight. You're somebody who, throughout your career, has had an extensive background in sort of physical training and strength training. Tell me a little bit about Donaire dropping down to bantamweight and why you feel that won't be a problem.
No, it won't be a problem because the way he's made his weight in such a manner as to where he doesn't have a problem with it. We've calculated this thing to the T, and he's already there. He's there already. He's been there. He's been there off and on within what you call a kilo or whatever. We've been there, So weight's not a problem. Believe me, it's not a problem at all.
You're somebody who's been around, we'll come on to it, you've worked with some stellar names, some really legendary fighters. In a career as long as yours, you're 78 now, is that right?
Yes.
78 years old. Have you had to adapt your training methods, certainly from a weight making and a strength point of view, to keep up with kind of the technological advances in the sport today?
No, I haven't, due to the fact that I am the first guy that started strength programming in the United States. I learned it in Sonthofen, Germany in 1972. That's why I first learned it through the Bundeswehr in the German Olympic training camp. That's the first time I learned it. Matter of fact, I brought it to the United States. I was the first one to ever get people involved in strength programming. And it's basically went the same way, and to include interval running. So this is something that I'm geared to all the time. And so it hasn't been a problem. It's been like easy floating for me because a lot of other people are just getting involved in the strength programming where I've been doing it for years. The only little different thing that happened now is that you're dealing with the strength, you're also dealing with nutrition, and which is a very, very important part. And so this is where I think Donaire is well ahead of the game. He's working, we got people that are dealing with him nutritional-wise, We have people that deal with him. We have also chiropractors, including with our team. So we have a complete we have a fitness and a complete dealing. And I do all the drills, and we work our strategies and everything, and it completely works out well for us. And I mean, it's like I've kind of been all the dealings with the strength programming. I'm a hell of a working guy with the drills, and I do everything. I do technical boxing. I do stutter steps, pivoting, slipping, sliding, and power, and I work in all those different angles. So I've been pretty well all around in the sense of doing that, and it's very, because I was a fly and a bantamweight myself, so I'm with speed, I'm with power, explosiveness, and all of that.
Now, you mentioned that when you boxed as an amateur, as a fly and a bantam. You didn't turn pro. Tell me a little bit about that. I know you spent a number of years in the military. Right. Tell me about your first of all, your amateur background and how that led you into the military.
Well, actually, when I first went in the military, I had like about 35 or 40 fights. And I went into the military, and so when I went there, that's when they was looking for boxers when I went into my second 8 weeks of training, and I got on the boxing team, and that started me to actually starting my boxing in the military. So that's where I went. I fought for what they call the All-Army and the All-Service Championship. Then after that, you have your SISM, which is your World Military Games. You get involved in that. So basically, I ended up with about 200 fights, and won most of them. I lost about 20 fights, but I had a very good career in boxing, and so I had an opportunity also to turn professional, but decided that I didn't really want to be a professional. So at the same time, I was in the military then, so I stayed in the military, and that's when I switched over and started coaching. I said, and then I started seeing what was happening. I said, oh, this is where I was made to do. I was made to become a coach. So I started coaching in actually Würzburg, Germany, 1972. Is when I first started training fighters, and that's what I said. I got involved 72 and 73. I was in Germany and got involved in that, and that's when I started. And I came back to the States, came back to another post, which actually Fort Hood, Texas, is where I came, and they had never won anything particular there in the military itself. So I started training there, set up the camps, knew what things I had done in the amateur program in Germany, so I just continued doing that. So that's why I say I started doing the strength programming, the interval running, and I learned all that, the explosiveness, and I started implementing all of that. And so before you know it, the All-Army team, we beat everybody, all Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, set everything up. My team, I won the Nationals every year. I was a coach for the Army. We won every year for 8 straight years. We won it. I got a pick to become one of the assistant coaches for the '84 Olympic team, which was a great team. And then I became the head coach for the '88 Olympic team, which was another great team. So I got involved in that, and that's how. And I came on to got a contractual thing set up with the Bob Arum, top ranking them, and set up the gym at Las Vegas, Nevada, the top ranked gym. I set that up completely and got that lined up, and then at the same time I brought bundles of fighters with me. I brought Eddie Cook, Kennedy McKinney, Ray Mercer, Alfred Cole, Charles Murray, you name it, Vince Phillips. I brought all of those fighters to top rank with me, and all of them became world champions, so that's how actually my start became, so I started from then on picking up other fighters and more and more and more. I think I had about 10 fighters in my camp at one time, so that became real strong. So from there, I just, God was blessing me, and I just moved on, and skill level, and that's what I call it, skill. I don't go by luck. I go by skill. Everybody says good luck. So I don't need it. Skill level is where it's at. So take it forward, that's it.
Let's just backtrack a little bit. You mentioned the 1984 Olympic team, arguably the greatest Olympic team, certainly that America has ever produced, but arguably the greatest Olympic team of all time. You got Pernell Whitaker, you had Mark Breland, Evander Holyfield, Gonzalez. Tell us a little bit about that team and what it was like working with such talented fighters who then became to be such legendary professionals.
These guys were very tremendous fighters. They were guys that just naturally talented fighters. All of those guys were great fighters. You started with Gonzalez, McCory, you had Meldrick Taylor, you had Pernell Whitaker, you had Page, you had Mark Breland, who had only lost one amateur fight in his whole career. You had McCory, and you had I got a little dementia, so you have to excuse me for getting the names, but Evander Holyfield, and I think one of my biggest blessings for me is that I didn't have any of my guys per se on the 84 teams at all that were actually my own fighters and everything, but I kind of took Holyfield at a side somewhat, not to the side, but I was the coach for the teams that were preparing to fight in the box off in the Olympic trials. So Holyfield had lost to Ricky Walmack, who was with the famous Manuel Stewart's team from the Crump. So I told him, I said, I can tell you what your problem is, and it's about utilizing your jab effectively to set up your other punches. So I worked with him during that little period of time, and because he had lost to Ricky Walmack in the box off. So at that time, you had to win twice in the box off to get on the Olympic team. So that's what happened to him. He lost to Ricky Walmack in the Olympic trials, but we came back, and I trained him while we was in Las Vegas, Nevada, and during that time frame, he had to beat Ricky Walmack twice to get on the Olympic team. So when me helped preparing him, that's exactly what happened. He beat Ricky Walmack twice and got on the Olympic team. To me, I thought that was the one at that point in time was one of my great moves then to move him into a position to get on the Olympic team. And as a matter of fact, I see him all the time. I say, I didn't work with you in the professional, but they had wanted me to with Duva and them, but I was in the military then and I didn't want to get out. And plus, the Olympic time was coming up for 88, so I kind of said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay where I'm at. But anyway, just to make that point is that I tell him, I said, I'm the guy that got you. He said, I know, Kenny, I know. Because Holyfield is a man within himself, and he says, well, I know. I said, yeah, but I want to get that credit that you do me. You owe me that, And he says, well, okay, yeah, you did it. You did. But so I'm a listener, though. So to say, I pay attention. I said, well, that's good, but that's one of the little funny little qualms. I just saw him about a couple of months ago, and I like to see him. I said, oh, Holyfield, the guy that I made. I like to talk like that. Oh, coach, this is a good coach. I said, yeah, that's good. But he's a good people, so it's just amazing. You just run into your guys sometimes, just like Crawford. I started him too, and so he's another one, and I'm so proud of that guy, man. He just does everything so well, and I knew all the time that this guy was going to be such a great professional. I knew that he was. I could tell. You can tell with some of these guys whether they're going to be good or not, and he was one of them, and you could tell.
Could you tell from an early age, could you see what Evander Holyfield would achieve in his career, and Pernell Whitaker? I mean, you dealt with them at such an early stage of their career. Could you see what they would go on to achieve in their career?
Yes, I could definitely see how these guys were. One was like Pernell, one of the slickest, one of the greatest professionals, guys who couldn't hit hardly, was very slick, had styling and great combinations and those things. And Holyfield was just, his cojones was just always so big until, he was just going to deal with you and bang you and fight you till the end, And he reminded me of one of the other kids that I had, Vince Phillips, who was the same way, that would do these type of things, And and you got the greater boxers who, like Kennedy McKinney, who could do certain things. You got Eddie Cook, who can punch so powerfully and do things, So it's just greatness of so many of these fighters, and I've been with so many of them. I've been very fortunate. God has blessed me. I think is this. I had my different ways that I did things somewhat, but it really came to a point where, like now I feel so great that Donaire is going to be my 27th world champion. I'm going to let you know that right now. They can take that to the bank. He's going to be my 27th. I got 26 world champions. He's going to be my 27th. And without a doubt, he's going to take care of that business, And so I'm a technical type fighter guy. I believe in the boxing, the ability, the movement. I believe in stutter stepping, pivoting, stepping around, hit and not be hit. That's the name of the game. And that's what it's all about.
Now, you mentioned that you've had 26 world champions. You've also mentioned in this interview that you have dementia. I can't name the 26 world champions. I just wonder if you.
I can't either. I got it right.
You got it right there. But if you could read them, would you like to read them, or do you right? Okay, I'll read them. I do know a lot of them, but I don't know all of them. Okay, well, this is what somebody who I'd like to speak to you about anyway. So, tell me about working with Edwin Valero.
Oh my God, I think when you talk about fighters, his styling wasn't always the greatest, but cojones, toughness, and will to win was Edwin Valero. Coach, I said, what? Give me a Viagra so I can work out. That's him. 100 milligrams. And he didn't want nobody to beat him running, didn't want nobody to beat him in the gym. That was Edwin Valero. And he took the same thing to the fight. As you know, 29 wins, 29 knockouts, 19 in the first round. Hey, I got that memory. And this guy, I worked with him for about 5 or 6 fights, but he was a jewel to work with. Anything you ask him to do, never questioned anything you did or asked of him, he just did it. And you don't get that with a lot of fighters. Well, why, Coach, why we do this or why? But it's good to know because it's something that is needed to know, but he just never asked anything, just did it, just did it. And you couldn't beat him running, couldn't beat him up in the gym, because I had to get bigger sparring partners. Here he was a 135-pounder at the time, 30, 35. Had to get 150 pounders or so for him to spar with because he was brutal. And you try to say, Edwin, take it easy. No, Coach, I got to get in shape. And that was just him,
How hard did he punch? I mean, obviously, all of the knockouts, we've all seen the record. How hard did he punch?
He was a hard puncher, but I've had some explosive punches. Kennedy McKinney, Eddie Cook, Freddie Norwood. Those guys could really, really punch too. And another one I had, Frankie Laos, is another guy that could really, truly punch. So I put, once again, Ray Mercer, boom, could crack you like monsters, Ridley Bowe. And a lot of those guys like that. But, those are some of the explosives. And there's so many guys that have so much power. But Edwin was just relentless. That was what you could say, relentless. Took him to the camp to spar with. This is the point. Took the Big Bear, California to spar with Oscar De La Hoya, and it was just preparation for the left-handed guy. After the second day, they said, you take this monster away from here. His brother said, hey, Kenny, please, this is it. We don't need him anymore,
Now, obviously, you worked with Edwin for a short space of time throughout his career. Could you foresee how his life would tragically end up? I mean, we all know the story. Rest in peace. Could you see that in him? Could you see that type of personality, or was that something that I'm assuming you were surprised?
The time frame that I was with him, he drank a little bit, which was kind of a problem. What's the word that the Spanish word used? Crazy. Viva loco. He was viva loco, somewhat like that. But in a sense, I had to control in a sense with him. But even when we was in Mexico once, he grabbed me and he started choking me and grabbing me in the waist. I said, "You better let me go, man. I'm finna bust you and knock the dude out of you." Okay, Kenny, my friend, you know. But he was just kind of like that. He just kind of had that one little, I don't know what it was. I'm not sure. I guess didn't spend enough time with him to really know completely about that. But he had that one, he definitely had the streak in him. He had the streak in him. But I don't believe he killed himself. I'm going to tell you that right today. He didn't kill himself. I knew him well enough. He had 2 lovely children and a beautiful wife. And I don't believe he killed himself. I think it was a setup somehow. I believe that it was somewhere within somebody got him.
Moving away from Edwin Valero, you also worked with another very, very talented but also tortured soul in Johnny Tapia. Tell me about La Vida Loca. Tell me about working with Johnny Tapia.
He was just another type of guy. When he had the mitts, he wanted mitts that would sound off. Pop, 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 pop. He didn't want to hear no soft mitts. But he was just another one those were 2 of the wildest cats that I've ever had to deal with. And they were just vivo loco. That was it. They were just, but hell of a fighters and hell of a workers, and they were trained hard. Those were the things I would say on that, you know, definitely, without a doubt, you know. But I tried to stay away from on their personal life, you know. I didn't never get involved in, and I tried to stay away from most of the fighters. The only ones that I was more involved with their personal lives, I guess, were guys that I had in the military. But a lot of guys that were in civilian life, I didn't deal with them that much in their personal lives, you know.
Do you think with guys like Valero and Tapia, because they kind of had these wild personal lives, they kind of found a nice balance with you because you are a military man, you're somebody who's known for strict methods and strict training regimen. Do you think that's why you kind of bonded and you gelled together as trainer and fighter?
I think so, primarily because I'm a no-nonsense person, and I don't, and like I say, it's my way or the highway, you know, and so that's the way I work, you know. No fighter don't tell me what and how. I let him know I'm in charge. You the fighter, but I'm in charge of your training, and you're gonna listen to me. And if I can't deal with you that way, bye. See you.
I also read something about you with Floyd Mayweather. What happened with you and Floyd Mayweather? I know there was a period of time where you were potentially going to work with Floyd. That didn't happen. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, what happened on that was that we went to the gym, and at that time I was working with some guys from Uzbekistan. I was working with Chagayev and Mohammed Abdullayev and Togenbayev. And so what happened, they came in the gym, they said, Donald House, the guy that worked with MMA, he said, Kenny, Floyd wants you to work with him. I said, okay, no problem. So he came in the gym at Taco's gym, and Taco's got 2 sides, one side where people work out and another side. So I was working with Chagayev and them on this side. So he said, Kenny, Floyd wants you to work with him. I said, okay. So when I said, hey, Floyd, I saw him. Hey, what's happening? I said, when I finish working with my man here, I'll get with you. He says, okay, Kenny. I said, they said, and so we said that. And so anyway, I called the house to tell him. I said, okay, well, I'm finished now. Tell him to come on this side. And Floyd said, no, he want me to come on that side. Well, see, I already know, psychological or whatever it is, if this happens, the fighter feels that he can dictate to me what he needs and doesn't want, and I'm not with that. So it's my way or the highway. So that's what happened. So he didn't. So, you know, he was manly, and we've been real good friends. We see each other, a good hug. Hey, Kenny, what's happening? And all that right today, you know. And but then he said, Coach, I see you. I said, I see you. Take care now. I mean, it was like that. We left just like that. We never had a conversation about it because I got so much pride. I'm a very pride person too, and I'm not going to give in to people in most cases, and that's my hard-headedness. I'm not giving in. So that's the way it works.
Is there any part of you that regrets not working with Floyd?
Money. Money, 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 money. That's about it. I wish I could have worked with him. I don't think you could. There's anything that anyone could really do with Floyd. I think his father had done a great job. Roger and them had did a great job with him to begin with. And as you know, his father was one of the greatest defensive guys ever. So he's learned his defense well, and he learned his skill level. He didn't need anything. He has everything. He doesn't need it. Didn't need a Kenny Adams. You know, I mean, I don't know if he'd have been any better because he's great skills. You know, you just sometimes you just got it. Then you just take it and run with it. You know, that's it. I would have loved to. Like I said, money, 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 money.
You did promise me a song at the start of the interview, so we're getting there. We're getting there. Just for argument's sake, I mean, there's something that I did with Abel for fighters that he'd worked with. If a fight were to happen, Edwin Valero versus Floyd Mayweather at lightweight, who wins that fight?
It's a tough go, but if I'm training Valero, he wins, without a doubt. Because the pressure, and at the same time, you got to understand the understandings of a guy like Floyd, the way he boxes. That's why he had the tough time with Castillo. And that would have been the manner that I would have fought him. No pressure. Don't give him no slack, no sleep. Cut him off, and just like we're gonna do with this young man that we fight. What's his name? Burnett. We're gonna cut it off and kill it, because I'm a combat vet. And that's what I believe in: cutting them off and killing them. That's it.
Who's the most naturally talented fighter you've worked with?
Huh?
The most naturally talented fighter you've ever worked with?
Kennedy McKinney, without a doubt. Everything. Style, punchability, defense, offense, he had it all.
How would you think he would fare in the modern era?
Excellent, because of the ability that he had at this point in time. At his weight class, he was a bantamweight. And these guys had hell with him because he could punch. And when if you want to know whether he can punch or not, look at him and the Nonito fight, and you will see his punching ability. He had a right hand that knocked Nonito down face first, and he came to attention first, then went down, and he could punch.
Just finally, somebody who I know that you worked with, somebody that fascinates me really for his career, and well, maybe you can enlighten me. Ridley Bowe. Do you feel like Ridley Bowe made the most of his potential, and if not, why not?
Because I think Ridley Bowe needed discipline, and I think Mr. Futch was a great man, and he and I spoke often on the phones and things, because I wish I so much had his demeanor. He could talk to a guy with a soft tone, but I'm a screamer and a yeller, and I wish I had that demeanor that he had. But I think that Ridley Bowe needed a Kenny Adams-like guy to be in his case, to make him do above and beyond what he was capable of doing. And because we ran into that in the training camp, he missed one of my runs one day, and then he needed that in the point of growing up at that point in time. And the camp said we was getting ready to go to Cuba then. They said, Kenny, I said, no, get rid of him, send him home. They said, he just missed your run. I said, that's the one round. Send him home. And discipline was the key. And for so many people, discipline is very much the key to boxing. You have to be a very disciplined fighter, and I've always had that thing, and maybe too much of a disciplinarian is what I am, but yet still, I'm teaching the techniques of boxing, because I'm a very smooth, skilled type boxing trainer. So that along with discipline goes a long way. And working with the strength and all this, I want to put the complete picture with a fighter, and that's always my goal. And that's what Donaire has now. He has a complete picture, and this is what will make the big difference, I think, in this fight. And I think down the line, people are going to see that as we go along. Because I've heard some rumors about they didn't know whether he'd be on weight and this and that. He ain't got no problem with nothing. He's skilled completely for this fight, and he's going to be on top of his business. Believe me.
Just finally, you're somebody who's been around the block and back in. You mentioned Eddie Futch. We've mentioned Emmanuel Stewart in this interview as well. Do you think that the modern day trainers? Do you think? I mean, so you come from an era with your Eddie Futches, Bill Miller, George Benton.
Yes.
You know, those legendary old school trainers, quote unquote old school trainers. What do you make of the current crop of trainers, the current climate of trainers? It seems to be more of a younger man's game these days. Is that something you'd agree with?
Well, I'm not going to knock the young men of today. They do what they have to do, and once again, a lot of them are very successful at it. But the biggest problem that I see with trainers today is that they're yes men, and I don't play that. And maybe I'm the old father type teacher. Disciplinarian, that's the key with me, and you have to have that. You have to be disciplined. But guys now, they tell them what he's gonna do. Oh, I'm gonna do this today, coach. I'm gonna do. Don't work like that with me. I tell you how and what we're gonna do, and it has to be that way. And then, like I said, it's my way or the highway. Just simple.
Okay, well, Kenny Adams, thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social. Apologies for.
Well, let me say one thing.
Okay, you can say one thing.
Only the strong survive, the weak fall by the wayside.
That military term.
Amen.
Kenny, it's been a real pleasure to sit down with you today.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social. I look forward to seeing Nonito Donaire in action on Saturday night.
Well, thank you very much. Remember, I said that.
I'll remember.
And the new.
Thanks very much.